Hello, welcome to the Augmentation of Man with Kent and Renee Miller, where we are bringing the future. Today, we're going to be discussing
universal laws, laws of consequence, cause and effect.
We're going to be tying all this together with the correction in the timeline. I think we need to first discuss laws, universal laws and concepts.
We're told by the guides there are millions upon millions of universal laws that determine behavior of all living entities,
Atoms,
within the universe, and all
but everything in the universe, the
everything
matter,
in the universe.
How everything behaves.
Yeah, and the laws of connectiveness that relates to energy patterns that are specific to various locations within the universal system. You can't think of the universe as one big piece of ground. It's broken up into various locations depending, and the laws reflect those various locations.
And so each location has something new to learn because the laws are different in these locations and matter behaves differently in those locations. And so then what we're observing will be different from and vary at least somewhat from one location to the next within the universe.
Okay, think of the universe as a big school. And in this school are various classrooms. The universe is broken up into these various classrooms. So that determines how matter behaves, because when you go to one classroom, the pupils or the entities there behave one way, and you go to another classroom and they may behave a different way.
And it all gets back to how matter varies within those specific regions. So what the scientists here are observing on Earth, the laws, the universal laws that apply to matter here and the vibrational frequencies here are going to be different than some other location in the universe. And our scientists are trying to apply the laws of Earth to the laws in other locations and don't understand why it doesn't congeal.
They don't act like we do.
So we have to consider that in other locations, everything is different. Matter behaves differently.
So with that, you gotta think differently than what you've been thinking. So when entities come from outside our solar system and visit us, don't expect them to behave the same manner as Earthlings here. There's going to be a difference, and you have to accept their culture and not compare it to our culture.
And their way of thinking is going to be different because they have maybe a more expansive understanding than we have, because each section is tailored to specific learning levels based on the comprehension level of those beings. So human beings are at the lower level of comprehension when we compare ourselves to other entities out in the universe. Therefore, the parameters for the universal laws here on Earth are set at a lower bar than they are elsewhere for other entities at a higher level of learning.
So most laws themselves are they're scientifically based on what they have learned and what their knowledge is, or knowledge base. And so it can't be the same in every solar system within our galactic system. So concepts are the reason for the laws. Our purpose is to come to a conceptual understanding of the behavior and energy of matter itself. So, for example, our scientists make observations on various phenomena on the Earth and out in space. And that phenomenon, they say, is consistent until something they call abnormal happens, which means it's not consistent. So with that, they say, well, we don't know why this happened, but this is an abnormality. Well, it may not be an abnormality in that sense.
You know, something that comes to mind is we were watching Skywalker Ranch or Skinwalker Ranch last night. And matter is not behaving in that particular region on Earth like it does in other regions. So why is that? Why is there an anomaly in that region? So what we can do is we can take that scenario and apply it to a bigger scale out in the universe, where Earth in general behaves one way, but out in the universe, matter and phenomenon behave differently.
Yeah, so these hypotheses, I accentuate that word hypotheses, are transferred to the general population into believing that's the truth. When we really don't know the complete truth about these phenomena that are happening. They're calling them phenomena or different things that are outside our ordinary thought.
It's the observable universe or the observable sphere in which we live, and we draw conclusions based on our observations, and then we try to prove the theory that it works under a certain premise or a certain law, and then scientists will make up experiments to prove that theory right or wrong.
Yeah, and we believe that gravity is holding us here on the Earth, but there is research that is happening on vibration and sound that shows it overcomes gravity, where things tend to float. So we don't understand total gravity and the phenomena that's associated with gravity.
We haven't learned how gravity works, although
we
our
know how
guides,
it works, but we don't know the phenomena also with it.
Our guides are saying that the gravity works much like quicksand. So as these molecules move inward, it creates this gravitational field. So now we're going to move on to the laws of consequence, and this all dovetails in. And so what our guides said, and I'm going to quote, this is out of our meditation: the laws of consequence will prevail the new species. So this is the new human species that we're talking about. And they're talking about the laws of consequence are going to be brought back to the new human species. Welcome to the next emergence. We will be waiting. Continue your path. Your levels will be raised. Inform others you are on the right path to the universal correct path. So the information that we are receiving and we are passing on to you, and they're telling us to inform others that this is the correct path that we should be on. Astuteness prevails. Prepare a place. Your understanding is consequential. Learn the wisdom of natural law. Keep truth at center. Wisdom will be accessed at a rapid rate. Acceleration to your neuronetical system. So that's our neurological system that they're talking about, and that there's going to be an acceleration. These changes that are coming are going to enable our neurological system to process information at a much faster and higher rate. And so we have lots of changes that are coming to us, and that wisdom is going to be part of it.
So we're trying to define what consequence is, and it's following as a conclusion to an event. That's what it kind of means. It's the laws of consequence. Therefore, It means the laws that create the parameters for our learning are relative to the events unfolding around us. Again, I'm going to say the laws that create the parameters of our learning relative to the events that unfold around us. Because each event is for us to study and learn from, if we will.
So we talk about consequences, and usually, you make a decision and you have to live with the consequence. But really, it's about our learning, because when we make a decision, it's based on our level of understanding at the time that we make the decision.
When you talk about cause and effect.
Well, it fits in with cause and effect. It's all about the learning. So we make a decision based on limited level of understanding, and through the effect that that decision creates, then we generally lump it into, I like my decision, I don't like my decision. But either way, we are learning from the decision that created the energy pathway to a final event. Whether or not we like it is immaterial. What we need to do is study the pathway, the decisions that were made that created the energy pathway that led to the final event. And so it's the learning before the event that is where we need to direct our thoughts.
Now we're going to cover a little bit of universal time. So we're going to repeat a little bit of what was in the last video. Humanity has drifted off the real universal timeline and thousands of years ago, and we've created a new timeline which has been throwing humanity off for thousands of years. Well, we're eventually going to come into the natural universal timeline, and it's going to be interesting on what happens. It's going to calm down all this chaos,
which we've been in for thousands of years because of our misunderstandings.
Yeah. So one is held to the understanding of what we have, which is wrong, and we're going to come to a new truth of understanding.
And so because we've had no consequences, we have not adequately studied our events, and we have missed out on vital learning, and our behavior has not changed as a result of the new understanding that we would have gained had we learned.
And the key word there is consequences. There have been no consequences for the way man has acted.
And so we generally think of the consequences as punishment, but in this sense, it is not punishment. It's all about the learning.
Yeah.
So one could argue that our behavior has really become more obnoxious as time has progressed on this alternate timeline, because we haven't come to understand that it's all about the learning. We tend to project blame onto other people instead of just saying, okay, this event happened, I'm not going to cast judgment. What do I need to learn from this? And that's where we need to go. And when we do that, when we start analyzing what led up to that event, then we come to a new understanding, and our behavior naturally shifts toward a positive, because we make new decisions that are generally more beneficial to society based on our new understanding.
So, our conclusions about events relate to our learning about cause and effect. So cause and effect will be reinstituted, I guess you could say, and where we will once again begin to study the causal relationship between the actions that humanity takes and the events that follow those actions.
So our guides have said mankind has been in chaos for thousands of years, and now it is time to correct. Learning has come with much difficulty due to the arrogance of the human race.
Again, due to the ego and the arrogance of the human race, we have to get off the timeline we have been on, which we see even more. Well, we see more of it now because of the bigger population chaos.
But I would say it's probably been a more painful path because of our lack of understanding, and it causes us to have to go through the hard knocks to learn. And so that generally means that it's a more difficult path of learning.
And maybe that's why events are happening, opening up, that we can see the results of these events, which creates more chaos. And we can see this doesn't fit what would be normal. We are becoming a little more smarter. I don't know about wise, but we are understanding more that these events create these chaoses. And we've got to change the way we think about events and what causes the event.
And not put it in a judgmental box.
That's right.
Or the worst thing we could do is to cast blame and point the finger, because then no learning is occurring.
Well, the truth, as we understand these events, it will cause us to rethink. It'll cause up our shaking of the society, rethinking why these things happen.
Because what happens is that it starts with an initial event, and all other decisions are based on that event. It's due to our perception. And what happens is that when you have misperceptions develop, then it multiplies, and you get to a final point where you've got multiplicities of misperceptions and misconceptions. And so our society today, the way that we view our world is not the way that the universe views our world. And so what will happen is that it forces a correction to occur. And when that correction occurs, we are going to have this sudden awakening that's going to be shaking down to our core. And it's going to be very difficult for some people to accept what the truth is.
Yeah, so truth shakes.
It can be a shaking it up.
Reality.
Right. And to make matters worse is that we have those in power who take advantage of the situation, and they are controlling the narrative, and they're using information to manipulate our thoughts. So it compounds our misperceptions. It makes it even worse. And so when these things start to shake out, and when the truth comes out, it's going to be very difficult for some people to accept.
Yeah, so all events are linked together. Events of the past, events of the present, and what it does, it forms what our future events will be, which is quite interesting. But the consequences of the time continuum will become distorted.
Based on the misperceptions.
Based on misperception of
So it all
past
goes
and
back.
present events.
It all goes back to that beginning where we were, we allowed the ego to take over, and we thought we were more intelligent and smarter than we were. We thought we were the center of the universe, and everything compounded off of that. And so one initial event sets up the stage for all future events to happen. And we come to this juncture in time when our perceptions are way off. And now we have this correction happening. This timeline is going to be corrected.
When it is corrected, then we can move forward as a race within the universal system, continue on our learning path of understanding the laws that encompass us. The laws that are supposed to encompass us.
And if you haven't watched our last 2 videos on the time correction, I would recommend that you go back and watch that because it will help fill in the blanks to what we are discussing now. And maybe you need to just review it if you've seen it already, because our conception of time is different than the universal understanding of time.
Yeah, we really don't understand how the universe uses time. We use our own time, which is, again, our own time.
It has to do with the watch. But universal time is more of a narrative of events that have happened.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't seen it, or if you need to review it, go back and look at the last 2 videos on the time correction.
So with all these new reflections and misunderstandings, it is now time to reflect and bring calm. Be neutral. This is the only way that we can move out of this chaos. Be calm, be neutral. Move away from the polarization to see the truth, which is extremely important. Bring peace within, not say peace be with you. Bring your own peace within yourself, which will reflect on others, which they will see the peace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's nothing like showing the way to do something rather than saying the way to do something.
Through your own example.
Yes.
Walking
exactly.
and talking.
Yeah. So accept that we are in a state of great change coming. And with that,
Our reality is going to change.
Yeah, reality to a great change.
I think we need to really expect it and come to accept that we're going through great change. Our reality is going to change, and to move with the natural flow of energy in that direction, bringing calm and peace within. And understand that other people are, because it's going to be such a shaking event, that they're going to be in a real state of anxiety because of it.
Well, we've got to come together as one people. We've got to show the entities outside of Earth that will probably be visiting in a more real way than just passing through. We have to show them that we can get along together. We can help one another. Without this, we are still barbarians in their eyes.
And we will be isolated.
Yes.
Because one of the tests that we have before us is being able to accept others who are different from ourselves before we are reintroduced to the universal neighborhood. Because if we can't even accept that our skin color is different or our belief systems may be different, then how are we going to accept somebody who looks radically different from the way that we look, or whose customs are much different, or their belief systems, their truth is much different than our own?
Yeah, so we have to be a lot more kind with one another than what we have been. Mm-hmm. All peoples. And do not let those that want to control you control you. You have to be your own person and do your own research and accept others for what they are and who they are. Now, we have been told by our mentors that the indigenous people around the world will become our teachers, because they will help us get back to the correct timeline we're supposed to be on for a learning path.
Mm-hmm. And we weren't sure how that was going to look, because we were told that back in around 2008, that the indigenous would start to become our teachers. But when you start looking at globally, how are you going to reach all these people? You start to wonder, how is that going to happen? But now we're coming to understand that through the use of YouTube and videos, that these indigenous leaders are teaching us through YouTube.
Yeah.
which was uncommon just even a decade or two ago.
Yeah. So by listening to what the indigenous people from around the world are teaching, what they are teaching.
It will teach us how to get back on the correct path.
Yeah. So with that, we'll check out, there's various videos on YouTube that give wisdom to those that want to listen.
We're going to post one down in the comment section of this video that we saw recently, and this elder covered a broad base of where humanity is now and where we should be in a non-judgmental way. And he really covers a variety of topics that are important to us today. We recommend that you check it out.
Yeah.
But there's many others online now who are teaching all kinds of things that will help us to recenter and rebalance.
Yeah, and you have to listen to the indigenous people of the earth to get their ancient knowledge on how we should be with one another and how we should react to
the earth.
Cause and events of the earth.
Yeah, they will teach us how to interact properly with the earth.
Yeah.
So we hope that you've gotten something out of this video today, and we welcome your comments down below. Do check out our website at verdience.com. That's with a V, and we'll have a list of our contacts and resources at the end of this video. And then if you want to delve deeper into these lessons, we recommend the Augmentation of Man series, A Study in Renaissance, and The Acquiescence of Humanity, available on Amazon. And if you like, do subscribe and share this video and others with other people who you think might be interested.
We talk about open communication with others that are different than you, so you can learn a lot more and understand the cause and effect of others that you thought were probably different than what you really realize. Communication, open communication with one another is so relevant and important.
And open discourse.
Yeah.
Especially, everybody's got a different opinion about what the truth is, because nobody has the truth. So
everyone is looking for it.
and well, some people are looking, but some people aren't. And so we have to keep an open mind, and we have to have open discourse to share information and to come to a more expanded understanding of what the truth might be.
Yeah.
And it only happens when we have free speech.
And so with that, if you have to go to another platform to get free speech to communicate with others, then do it. But do your own research.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Have a lovely day, and peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment.